Welcome back, everyone. We're Simply Bitcoin. We break down the news, the daily fail, meme review, software releases, hardware releases, the pleb sites, and joining us today, fellow Bitcoiner, fellow pleb, content creator and development and host at Bitcoin Magazine Live. I'm talking about Q. Q is joining us. How's it going, my friend?
What's up, everyone? Thank you guys so much for having me.
All right, we are diving into the numbers. We're taking Q on a little journey. Here we go.
Number time! Brought to you by Nodl. They make some of the best Bitcoin nodes. Remember, guys, if you don't run your own node, you're using someone else's. This is the Nodl Dojo. It's red, so that means it's faster. Run your own version of Bitcoin Core. Run the Lightning Network, all from the comfort of your own home. Get yourself a Nodl today.
At the time of this recording, the block height is 732,924. The Bitcoin price, 40,725. Chain rewrite days, 737. Total public Lightning capacity, 3,679.99. Moscow time, 24:55. Blocks to the halvening, 107,076. And the Samurai Whirlpool unspent capacity. Samurai Whirlpool is a CoinJoin or collaborative spend. It is not a mixing service. And the unspent capacity in that pool is 4,506.11 BTC. Guys, those are the numbers.
Numbers.
I like numbers.
Oh man, frozen in fucking time.
Did we say these numbers yesterday?
In fact, we actually tricked everybody. Phil said the exact same thing he said yesterday. I'm just kidding. Or was it a joke? The fact that you don't know whether we're joking or not proves my point that this thing literally is frozen in time. Anyways, Phil, you actually sent me a very interesting thread. I thought it was perfect because we could riff off this in the numbers section. And check this out. Well, I don't know why he's saying "oh no." I haven't
supposed to be my fail. It's okay.
Oh god. Oh god. Oh god.
I put it in the wrong section and then I realized it and I'm like, "Oh no."
Oh, well, I'm too late, Phil.
Let's go through it. Yep, too late. This is too amazing.
I'm taking it from you
this is
on
too
camera.
amazing.
It's mine now. Okay, anyways.
No,
All right,
this is too good.
Anyways, guys, so yeah, it is really good. Appreciate Phil, but Phil slipped up and it ended up in the numbers section. Anyways, let's check it out. This is a thread by Simon. If you're new to Bitcoin, welcome. I would like to introduce you to a key archetype. Meet the hodler. And these are the people. What, Phil?
Yeah, I'm an idiot. I'm just a burnout. This isn't even the article I was talking about.
Oh, god damn, Phil.
I'm sorry. I'm screwing this all up.
Someone mute his mic. Someone just mute his mic for like 2 minutes.
Welcome to Simply Bitcoin. It was 420 yesterday, man. Okay, if you're
I thought it was 420 today.
It's 420 every day. Okay. If you're new to Bitcoin, welcome. If you know, you know. I'd like to introduce you to a key archetype. Meet the hodler. These are the people the world thought were batshit crazy until a couple weeks ago. Hodlers are the heart and soul of the Bitcoin community. Understanding how they think is vital if you're going to play this game in which they hold all the cards or coins. Many hodlers bought and mined Bitcoin in the beginning. Like when it was 1 cent, $1, $5, $100, they own a vast majority of the Bitcoin in existence, control the market, they never sell and probably never will. The reason hodlers never sell is because they see Bitcoin as replacing fiat currency. They don't want to own dollars. They want to kill the dollar. To them, this isn't about making profits, it's about changing the world. By the way, Phil, I think me and you have said this a million fucking times, right? Are we OGs like this? Maybe not, right? But still, this is what we call it. Maybe we're not the OG hodlers, but we're the plebs. We're the plebs. But anyways, think about it. These people saw Bitcoin go from nothing to 1,000, they didn't sell, and went all the way back down to 100, and they didn't budge. Then they've rocketed up to 15,000. The ultimate hodler is Satoshi Nakamoto himself. Satoshi owns the keys to billions of dollars worth of Bitcoin and hasn't sold, spent any of it. Hodlers believe Bitcoin will go to 100,000 and beyond. When it does, no one will have to exchange Bitcoin for dollars because the world will be using it as cash. The hodler is the best kind of crazy, the kind that changes the world. They are all Satoshi. We are all Satoshi, except for Craig Wright. And now, so are you. Anyways, dude, awesome freaking thread, man.
Right?
Awesome thread. But I think that you got something wrong, man. Right? I'm not as OG, right, as, you know, these people. I wish I got $5 Bitcoin. That'd be great. I think I was too young. I was, like, you know, worrying about partying and girls at that time, right? But still, dude, like, I'm just as invested in this peaceful revolution as who he calls the hodler. And I know Q feels the same way. I know Phil feels the same way, right? This is a peaceful revolution. This is about freeing mankind from the tyranny of central banking. This is about the separation of money and state. The state will never be not corrupted as long as it controls the money supply. That is the root of all evil, right? That is literally the problem. That's what Bitcoiners fight for every day. But when we say fight, all it means is just buying Bitcoin and putting into self-custody, into cold storage. That is the fight. That is the act of resistance. That is the act of, I'm not complying with you. I'm opting out of your political money garbage, right? So that thread was amazing. But hey, man, the plebs, we might not have bought Bitcoin at $5, but buddy, we're still fighting. We're still fighting with you, man. We just might be a lot smaller. Phil?
Yeah, we just have a lot less corn to throw at the battle, right? We have a lot less corn to throw at the battle, but we have just the same amount of heart, right?
Yes.
We have the same amount of heart. And this is the thing about Bitcoin, right? A lot of us, I hate painting everyone with a broad brush. But, you know, there's a lot of us that came to Bitcoin for fiat gains. A lot of us came to it for different ideologies that were much less noble than what it can really be used for. And once you come to the understanding that Bitcoin actually fixes the world because it fixes the base layer of our value transmission and our value retention, okay? It changes everything. And you are no longer just sitting here for fiat gains. You understand that you're part of something that is revolutionary, that is changing the world. And it's finally something, right? Like, this is something that desperately needs to get fixed. Like, necessity is the mother of all invention. We had, like, there was no choice. Like, there's a saying that I learned early in Bitcoin. Bitcoin was inevitable. And it's true. When you look back at our human history, Bitcoin was absolutely inevitable. Satoshi was inevitable. The cypherpunks were inevitable. All of these people, all of these things were absolutely inevitable based on the actions that were put into motion years ago and the terrible decisions by stupid power-hungry humans. Anyways,
I wouldn't even say that it's necessarily terrible decisions, Phil. What I would say mostly is that the incentives of the fiat system are misaligned in the way that these central bankers, they're just pursuing their own incentives. It just happens that their own incentives hurt a lot for terrible decisions. And are terrible, but for them, for them not. It's great, right? And this is the tragedy of central banking, right? Is that it's a bad system. The beauty of Bitcoin is that everybody could win. Which is, and it's so unbelievable that when you tell a no-coiner this, they're in freaking shock. Anyways, Q, what are your thoughts on this?
I mean, I think Phil put it really well. When you have, just historically speaking, the way money has come and gone, and what the global standard of what money is has changed repeatedly over time. Look, the banking system is flawed inherently. I disagree with one thing that you said, though, Nico, where these bankers, they created the incentive structure that they are playing in. They are essentially both the players and the referees and the commissioner of the game that you and I are playing against them on. And at that point, it's like, all right, dude, I might as well just be playing against the Harlem Globetrotters at that point. Like, I have no chance at winning that game. There are always like those crazy stories or whatever, like grandma bought a bunch of Apple stock. No one knew where she hid it. And then boom, all of a sudden she dies. And now we're all millionaires. Sure. Congratulations to those of you who had that opportunity. My dad slept on literally all of those stocks. At the same time, though, like, there's a second layer to this where, and if you guys haven't had a chance to check it out, check out Pete Rizzo's article that he wrote for Forbes, where he essentially breaks down, like, there are now two classes of Bitcoiners. This goes back now to like the old original hodlers and like those of us, like the little hodler, me, Nico, and Phil, who we're just
we just got into this. Like, this is not like we were buying up Bitcoin at $1 or even $100, like still kicking myself for genuinely not wanting to use Silk Road in college because my friend was like, no, you can't use dollars. Like, you got to go buy this thing called Bitcoin. That was the moment I said no. Not, oh, I'm going to send illegal drugs to myself in my college dorm hall. That was not my problem. My problem was like, no, I don't want to spend more time learning about something else and doing all this. So we'll buy overpriced weed here in DC. There is inherently two classes of Bitcoiners at this present moment. There are the OGs that are essentially the platform maximalists, as Rizzo calls it, which is they believe in the technology behind this. They believe that everything that we interact with on the internet is going to end up being built on top of Bitcoin to make it a more equitable, more evenly distributed, and more accessible form of communication, and just frankly, a better internet. Then there are those, and I will put myself in this category, that are more the monetary maximalists. I came into Bitcoin because I was a finance guy. My buddy kept hounding me about Bitcoin. The moment we spent time talking about it, I was like, yo, you're absolutely right. Like, from a financial standpoint, like, dude, we can make a ton of fiat dollars just buying up some Bitcoin, and it's going to rip. Like, it might not rip tomorrow, but it will. Thank my lucky stars that I was a broke ass assistant in Hollywood at the time, because Bitcoin just hit $19,000 when we had that conversation. I had no money to put in it. And if I had done it at that moment and then watched it go from like 1920 down to 3K, I would have been so turned off. I'd be like, yo, like, no, I'm out. Don't even talk to me about Bitcoin. I lost too much on it. So thank God I literally had to wait 8 months to get promoted, and then finally got like what should barely be described as a livable wage as a legitimate agent in Hollywood. And then I was able to start buying Bitcoin.
Oh man. But you skipped. Oh dude. So Q, you haven't done the full cycle yet.
No. So my first buy was 2018.
Okay.
So I'm now 4 years.
Okay.
I'm technically speaking 4 years in.
You still haven't experienced a bear market, buddy.
Not even.
That is where your balls calcify. That is like when, you know, you're literally watching like years and years of salary dissipate before your eyes. It is the most terrible feeling. I never forget end of 2017. Early 2018, I was like, God damn, I think I need to go back to work in real estate. What is this? God damn, this sucks. I'm poor. But yeah, and then that's honestly when you start solidifying your beliefs, right? You're just like, dude, like, yeah, the money's nice, but I'm staying for the freedom. I'm staying for the freedom. What self-custody enables an individual to do is freaking priceless, and that's why I stayed. And then NGU technology is kind of like a side effect, but I definitely gonna check out that article. That sounds really fascinating. Phil?
It's awesome. I want to throw one more number if I can interrupt you, because like, you're absolutely right. I haven't really lived through a bear market. Like, you can call what we are on a technical basis a bear market because we have more than a 20% decline. But the truth is, and I had this conversation just this morning with our team on Bitcoin Magazine Live, like, you look at the 30-day trailing correlation between the NASDAQ 100 and Bitcoin, and that's above 90%. And it's been holding that level for over a month now. Then you even expand that out to 40 days. And now you have over a 67% correlation between NASDAQ 100, the best 100 tech stocks in the stock market, and then Bitcoin, which is more or less at this point a tech asset class that's being traded. I still study and trade in the public markets just because, like, I have that ability to, and I'm not going to not make money. I have been a net seller since December, and I'm waiting and watching for this market to really collapse in March of 2020, in the same way it did in March 2020. But if I also buy into this idea that right now in 2022, Bitcoin trades like a tech asset class, no different than the public markets. Well, if I'm anticipating a sell-off in this public market, I'm also going to anticipate a hard sell-off in Bitcoin. I'm going to take a little bit of hopium here. And my expectation is that's going to be the decoupling. That's when we finally see Bitcoin separate from the NASDAQ and whatnot. But that's the real bear market that I'm waiting for.
Yeah, I agree with that, and I agree with the sentiment in terms of I think that this puppy still has, and again, speculation, tinfoil hat time. I still think that we have. I still think that this cycle isn't over yet. I still think we have one last catalyst, one last leg up. But who knows? Let's see how it plays out. And I completely agree. And I was actually talking to a buddy of mine who still works at Goldman. I've been trying to orange pill this guy for 6 years. Still doesn't listen to me. And one of the things that he brought up when we were talking is, hey, what about the correlation between the NASDAQ and Bitcoin? What's the deal with that? And it's undeniable, right? But I suspect that's temporary. So I agree with your sentiment. But anyways, Phil, it's time for
The Daily Fail. Brought to you by Amber App. Check them out, amber.app. We've all got a stack. Use an app that's by Bitcoiners. Low fees, fair spreads, smart automation. The link is down below.
Amber, the smart way to stack sats.
So we got 2 fails today. We're going to dive into a great thread from Sam Callahan, okay, fellow Bitcoiner who we had on last week, I think. Should have had this article then. But anyways, the first thing we're going to do, though, is we're going to follow up to yesterday's fail with these shillfluencer accounts that charge. Okay, so look, one of the ways, I'm not judging anybody. Well, I am, but fuck it. It doesn't matter. Who am I, right? But look, at the end of the day, you want to get paid to shill garbage. That's your business, right? You're the one that has to live with yourself. That's totally your prerogative. Go right ahead. Okay? But in social media, I find that like if you give in to the people that are calling you on your bullshit, you're going to help them call you on your bullshit a whole lot more. And then you may draw some more eyes. Maybe eyes that you don't want. People that know how to dig up data, figure out, how to find interesting pieces of information. Anyways, so just a recap from yesterday. Here's the stupid chart of the influencer list and what they're charging. And yesterday it just so happened that we mentioned Zuby, right? Just so happens. So anyways, Zuby definitely got shit on a lot on Bitcoin Twitter yesterday. Anyways, Let's dive into it a little bit. Okay, here was one of the responses to Hodl or Not. Okay, as I've said several times, I was not paid by Twitch, nor do I have any business partnership with them. But I see it's let's make false allegations about Zuby Day, so have at it. I've already been accused of worshiping Satan, being on Putin's payroll, and being Illuminati. Okay, and here we can, we can see, some of Zuby's tweets. I've had all my sponsors. I've turned down a lot of money over the years, right? So that means any shitcoin that I said yes to is obviously quality. Because I've said no to certain people, it means the people I've said yes to, this means something. All right, here we go. We have a cringe frickin' tweet from the BSV lawyer, Jimmy Nguyen. Welcome, Zuby Music, to Twitch app and BSV. And here's a tweet that he's retweeting from Zuby, May 19th, 2021. He recently joined Twitch app. Okay, so didn't get paid for that either. All right, sure. So here's a tweet. Here's another tweet from Hodl or Not that I picked up. What type of moral gymnastics do you employ to tell yourself this? Because essentially, right, he doesn't think that he's done anything wrong. Okay? He hasn't done anything wrong. That's fine. Cardano. And he has a massive account, right? Here we go. Shilling NFT projects. Great. Boom! Shilling the Twitch app, wonderful. Meltem Demir's also shilled that as well. All right. So, here we go. Here's the original tweet from Zuby. If I've broken the law, please let me know which one, because that's a very strong accusation, and I don't take kindly to it. As usual, none of you will even use your name nor photo online, yet you're trying to hold everybody else accountable. The irony is never lost on me. And the tweet he's retweeting just says, nah, just when you shill scams that you got paid for undisclosed, it's called breaking the law and being a scumbag. So then Adam Back, who does show his face and is using his real name, responds, Bitcoiners tend to prefer free markets to regulations. But as you asked, and here's the SEC link. Let's take a look at this. I don't know, Zuby might have something to worry about. The Securities and Exchange Commission today announced settled charges against professional boxer Floyd Mayweather and music producer Khaled, known as DJ Khaled, for failing to disclose payments they received for promoting investments in ICOs. These are the SEC's first cases to charge touting violations involving ICOs. The SEC's orders found that Mayweather failed to disclose promotional payments from 3 ICO issuers. So, yeah, buddy, you shilled a bunch of crap and you didn't disclose that you did, and the Bitcoiners called you on it, and the worst thing that you could have done was sit there and scream about it. You know what? I do have to give some applause to a lot of the other people on that list who just sat there and just pretty much were like, yep, that's what I do. Fuck it. And they just went on with their lives. This guy called all kinds of attention to it and forced people to poke and dive in. Anyways, Zuby's wrecked.
Yeah, dude, it's the Streisand effect, right? You know, when it's on the internet, dude, as soon as you point something out, even if you want to point it out in a negative light, you're still pointing it out and you're still driving traffic to that specific topic, whether that's an account, whether that's, you know, anything that it is, right? Now, in terms of Zuby, dude, he had some really base takes that I appreciated over the time, but this is just another example of don't have any heroes in Bitcoin. Like, that's literally another example of that. It's unfortunate, you know, that he's taking, you know, these shitcoin payments. But, dude, look, we're libertarians at heart, dude. If that's what you want to do, go for it. That's fine, right?
But own it. But
own it. You can't have your cake and eat it too, right? You can't have your cake and eat it too. And I know Q knows this, right? It is extremely hard to grow on YouTube and to grow on whatever, Bitcoin only, and keeping your soul. Without talking about price and certain little buzzwords every single video is extremely hard to get people's attention, right? So, dude, like, I don't blame him, right? The shitcoins are so enticing in terms of the money, right?
They pay the bills, right?
They pay the bills.
They pay his bills.
Dude, I would rather keep my soul. But that's just me.
Yep.
You do you, I do me. We could all be friends, right? Anyways, Q, what are your thoughts on this?
I'm going to preface by saying, like, I spent so much time with Zuby at the Bitcoin conference. I view this guy as a friend. Like, I genuinely enjoy and appreciate his perspective on just the world in general. You're both absolutely right. You are entitled in this world, especially in a free market, to make money how you see fit. There are scumbags who own private prisons all over this country, and they make money off of that. There's a very interesting, I think, conversation on NFT stuff where, you know, like, I think you guys would agree with me. Most NFTs right now are not valuable. You could probably make some quick money here or there, like buying one, selling it real quick. Boom. Oh, I made a couple grand doing this. Like, cool. All you're really doing is just passing the bag on to the next person, because inevitably bag's going to drop. But the truth is, it's no different than like when I trade a stock. I'm not really selling a stock because I'm like, oh, this is going to keep going up. But so like it's your turn to make some money. It's like, no, I'm selling it to you because if I'm doing my calculations right, like you're probably going to lose money buying this stock. So go for it. There's a second layer to this, and y'all might not like my take on this, but like rip me apart for it. NFTs, the technology behind it are here to stay. How it's being used today, that's right click, save, like move on. Like, I don't give a damn about your digital artwork. Best examples right now are both in the sports world and in music. And I'll get to music because it relates back to Zuby. But this season, there were 2 sections I used to work there when it's called Verizon Center. I refuse to look up what it's called now, but the DC stadium that hosts the Capitals and the Wizards and their WNBA team, they spent 2 sections this year exclusively to sell tickets as NFTs. Because now the team can collect money off of the secondary and tertiary market ticket sales. That never existed before. You have dynamic pricing that moves the price up based on who's coming into town or what players are playing or who's the starting pitcher. That exists all across sports. By the end of this decade, it won't. You will be able to get real baseline ticket prices because these teams will find new revenue streams in these secondary markets because of these smart contracts. The same is going to happen in the music industry. I think this is where the Zuby of it all kind of fits in. I think he is genuinely curious at exploring how he can use blockchain technology at large within his music career. Keep in mind, this guy is an independent music rapper, artist, entrepreneur. So that element of it, I think,
is what made him curious. But like, unfortunately, you went down the wrong rabbit hole. I personally, like, I'm floored and a little bit like aghast at the way he's been reacting, attacking people, calling them out on what they look like and whatnot. Like, dude, you got, take your lumps and then move on. Let the next news cycle, news story pick it up. He's fanning the flames a little bit with this. And I really, nothing but love and respect for the man. I wish you did differently, but like, dude, this is why you're becoming friends with Bitcoiners, and like, talk to all of us more. Get to know what this technology really can do, because I think ultimately with what he preaches as his values and the way he sees the world and the things that he wants to see done, like, Bitcoin solves those problems. This is a man who travels across countries and literally can't open a bank account because he doesn't have a credit line in his home country. Yep. Like, what solves that problem? Bitcoin solves that problem. You know what doesn't? Cardano, bro. It just doesn't.
Yeah.
You know what really is going to happen with all that Cardano stack that someone like gifted you for free? The speculative, that there's no substantive proof of that happening, but these bullshit shit coins are just pre-mined to a point where literally on repeat, every time you get listed on Coinbase, every time you get listed on some of these larger platforms like a Robinhood, the chart literally just goes straight down. Why do you think that happens? Because all you fucking big bag holders start selling to the unsuspecting people who don't know any better, because we look up to you. We appreciate what you say. Your words have meaning, impact, and influence. Even us plebs here, the fact that you're listening to us talking, like, we understand and recognize the merit and value in what our words say. I think it's going to be a very interesting shift over these next few years. I think if all of these shit coins were really marked as securities, I know what I'm essentially alluding to and saying, like, let's bring in some regulation over this industry at large and start calling securities, i.e. shit coiners, and shit coins are securities. That changes the game. Then all of a sudden you're not really going to be tweeting about Cardano. You're not going to see Elon Musk tweeting about Doge. You're not going to see NFT projects getting shilled in the way that they are getting shilled now.
Well, and that's the big crux of it, right? And look, going back to the whole thing, listen, your NFT could be launched on top of Bitcoin. Like, if you want, if you're into that, and I'm totally for that. But what we're against is it's not that we're against it. We just call it out. You could do whatever your heart desires, but it's like you are launching an NFT on an inferior chain because that inferior chain gives you more power through marketing and through these celebrity endorsements to be able to dump on unsuspecting bad holders, right? It's a lot more boring to build on top of Bitcoin than it is to build on the next great Solana, et cetera, et cetera. So, you know, I think it's you know, perhaps a lot of the, you know, the maximalists like ourselves, perhaps we don't phrase it right. It's not necessarily that we're against these technologies. It's that they could be built on Bitcoin, and they will be better if they're built on Bitcoin, because Bitcoin is the most secure base layer of all time by far. Phil?
So yeah, we've said this. We've actually said this before. I appreciate your take about NFTs. Definitely, the technology is not going away. There's nothing wrong with that technology in any way, shape, or form. The issue is the marketing and the disingenuous messaging, okay? When people look at this technology and think that it needs to be quote unquote money, okay? Like, I have no problem with what they're doing with these secondary markets and the ticket sales and creating, you know, dynamic pricing and all that. That's fantastic. But none of that needs to have its own token in order to perform its function. Correct. As a smart contract or in a secondary market. Like, I'm sorry, the token is completely separate. And the problem is that what we've seen right now, the current application of NFTs, is that they've given people this false notion, number one, that they own the attached JPEG or image or whatever it is that is being claimed to be the NFT. That's the first problem. And the second problem is that it's pitched as an investment. So, you know what I mean? Like, look, what people don't understand is, why do you think baseball cards, why do you think a Honus Wagner rookie card, like, I brought this up before, but like, why do you think it's so expensive, right? It's not like he was like the best player necessarily. It's just a very rare card, and it's very much desired. You know, like that's what happens with a lot of these things. Like my parents are boomers. They had cards in the 1950s, right? The only reason those cards, one of the main reasons those cards became incredibly valuable is the desirability because of the nostalgia, number one. And number two, the rarity, because most of those cards were used to play a stupid game, a really fun game called Topsies, okay? Where they would sit there and throw cards against the wall, instantly making them unmint, okay? And then if the card fell on top of the other one, you'd keep both of them, but who cares? They're not even mint. Anyways, so my point is that NFTs, okay, though it's exactly what you said. It is the application that is incorrect and it's disingenuous messaging. So they are fleecing people out of their money.
And it can be built.
That's the big problem.
And it can be built on top of fucking Bitcoin. If it's built on top of Bitcoin, I'm a big fucking fan if it's built on top of Bitcoin. If it's not built on top of Bitcoin, you're literally building on something that is less secure because you want to pump your own bags, right? Which is insincere as fuck. Anyways, Phil, what's the next fail?
Do we have time for the next fail?
I think we went a little bit over.
Don't get me wrong. We might have to save it for the next episode because it's 10 points from Sam Callahan and they're killer.
But this was an awesome rip.
Yeah.
And dude, Q, we fucking love your responses, man. Are you
kidding me? Man.
We're Bitcoin. It would be kind of, contrarian to be like, no, we don't like your opinions, bro. Fuck you. You know, like
you'd be surprised by how many Bitcoiners who literally say, nah, fuck you.
No, because you really have to think about it, right? Like if you and we have, unfortunately, we have taken the time because we've gone through the NFT freaking circus a million times, and we have come to the conclusion where we're like, okay, this tech is okay, but it's the fucking bullshit that's all around it. That's the problem, and it shouldn't be built on Ethereum.
I think there's a really interesting I think we have one good thing to talk about in terms of Q. You maybe prefer government regulation. I'm from the libertarian perspective. I think I agree with you, dude. It's like they're so rampant in the scams, but we have to figure out how to do it without the heavy hand of government. That's my opinion. Phil, how do you feel about it? Or Q, go ahead.
No, Phil, go.
I'm going to be quick anyways. I completely agree. I'm also of the mind that it can be done without government intervention. I think the big issue is that nobody really has taken the time to attempt it. I think that's the big issue. Everybody automatically goes for the crutch, and that's okay. Again, right? This is part of being humans. This is part of us learning, right? We have to fail, right? We don't learn by getting everything perfectly right away. Otherwise, what the hell? We wouldn't be here.
Yeah. Quick, close it up.
I don't disagree. I don't look for the government to be like my savior or like come save the day. But given the system that we are in and the rules that we have to play by, based on that, that's the best sort of scenario to help, I think, ourselves as well as the people at large, because it can also help us separate Bitcoin from crypto.
Yes. Okay, fair enough. Good points. This is what it's all about. Anyways, Phil, it's time for
the Daily Meme Review.
Brought to you by Citadel 21. They are the best Bitcoin culture zine. It's stories, articles, comics by Bitcoiners, and they're scarce. There's only 1,000 copies made per volume. Get your physical print of Citadel 21 today before it runs out. This is volume 10. This is volume 11. Get them both. Citadel21.com.
I don't know. I kind of think this is the magazine everyone needs and wants and should have.
All right, cut it. That's not going to make it in the show. We're taking that out. Anyways, moving on to the meme review. All right, everybody. We had some things that happened that weren't planned for, but it's okay. It's okay. Yeah. Phil allowed the guest to speak for some reason. Anyways, moving on. First meme is brought to us by Orwell and Good. Millennials, come on, collapse. BlackRock, no. Dude, it's awesome. It's so fucked up. For anyone who doesn't know, BlackRock essentially is this financial institution that literally owns a piece of every single company in the existence of mankind, and they just started purchasing single-family homes in the U.S., and they're outbidding first-time home buyers. Like, it's so fucked up, right? Anyways, so yeah, great freaking meme. And by the way, Bitcoin actually does fix this. Next one, moving on to Jose. I love this template. If Ethereum is able to shift to proof of work, so could Bitcoin. No mining can make productive use of surplus energy from hydro, wind, and solar plants. Excess energy can be diverted to other markets. Hydrogen production could take excess energy. There is no excess energy. What the fuck? Dude, it's very deep. Very deep. Very deep. And you know what? I've actually had that moment myself, so I could relate. Anyways, next one is by Adam Kokesh. You got $1,400 in inflation. The predator class got billions. A country that cannot be named, a virus that cannot be named, basically distractions and excuses for the rich to use government to get richer at the expense of everyone else. That is 100% true. Let's print a bagdillion dollars. Inflation runs at 10%. Fucking Vladimir Putin.
This one is bull.
The bull is in the house. The bull is in the house. All right. Who did this? Fuck you, Weinekes.
Up and to the right, yeah.
No, this is great. No, this is my favorite one.
Template Tuesday. We give meme template. You make the meme magic. I present to you Nico plus potato.
That one was awesome. Fucking hilarious.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate the love and support. No, don't take off the bull mask. We're almost at the ratings. Okay, next one is by Richmond Dezo. Buying Bitcoin at bottom prices, buying lottery tickets with 1 in 88. It's so true.
It's so true.
It's so true.
You have better chances of being hit by lightning 3 times in a day than you do of winning the lottery.
Last but not least, Bitcoin central banks authoritarian government. It's so true because that's actually how they're reacting with their responses. Anyways, Q, I'm going to pass it on to you. What would you give that meme?
The last one we just saw?
All of them. It's all
Dude,
in one.
all
You
of
can
them
do whatever
across
you
the
want.
board.
You can
That
rank
was
them individually or all together.
honestly those memes are just going to start a bull run for Bitcoin at that point. Oh my God. I was laughing so hard at those. Obviously, my favorite one was Potato Head.
Oh, man. Are you calling me a potato, bro? No, I'm just kidding. Phil.
There's already a potato.
That's all but potatoes. Phil, what would you give those memes?
All right, look, those memes made me extremely bullish, and for that, I am giving it this I am orange pilled sticker. I don't remember where I got it from at the conference, but it was an awesome booth, and I took as many as I could.
Phil really likes free stuff. For those memes, I'm going to give it, because we're in a zine war right now, the best Bitcoin cultural zine. It's still Citadel 21. And the Q. What do you...
The second best Bitcoin magazine out there. This is the best.
Cultural zine, best cultural zine right here. Okay, anyways, you guys get the point.
This isn't gonna end well.
We're all on the same team, but the infighting there. Same team, but fuck you. Anyways, guys, we want to know, of course, if you agree with our scores, you disagree. Let us know down in the comments section. Of course, make sure to join our Telegram group so you can link us some dank Bitcoin memes to review, and subscribe to us on alternative video platforms like rumble.com and our personal favorite, BitcoinTV.com. They don't censor there because it's Bitcoin TV. Kind of be paradoxical if Bitcoin TV censored, wouldn't it? Anyways, Phil, it's time for
The Daily News.
Brought to you by Crypto Cloaks. Are you too lazy to 3D print your own shit? That's why you have to go to CryptoCloaks.com. They make the best 3D printed Bitcoin merch, like the famous Bitcoin art sculpture grenades. This one's in gold. I haven't shown it to you guys yet. This one's in black. You can also get this in any custom color your heart desires, and you can take advantage of the link down below for 5% off. So I'm going to go back to this last meme, right, of these dudes kind of freaking out, right? This is just government's responses to it, and I think this article really highlights it, and it highlights essentially what the problem is when the incentives are misaligned, and I'll get to that in a second. So, Bank of England taps banks for funds to increase scrutiny of crypto assets. Think about what that just said. The Bank of England is asking banks to pay for the compliance department of Bitcoin and shitcoins. Talk about misaligned incentives. Anyways, the Prudential Regulation Authority, which is part of the Bank of England, is planning to raise £321 million from the firms it regulates. for the year through February 2023. That's an increase of 8% on the previous year. The Bank of England is pushing for the role of regulators to be expanded on crypto. It sounds like they're using crypto and Bitcoin as a reason, as an excuse to raise more money from the people that they're supposedly regulating. I just think that this is a perfect example of the misaligned incentives of the fiat system. This is total clown world garbage. The regulator levied £297 million from its regulated firms in 12 months to February 2022, £24 million lower than its current target. Do you know how insane that sounds, dude? Am I reading this correctly? Is it because a pleb has a Bloomberg subscription and he's reading this and it's like, what the fuck? They think of you as tax cattle. That's honestly, I'm reading that, dude, and I'm just like, okay, but what is stopping this regulatory authority from saying that more crimes are being committed so that their budget is increased even more? And why is the scapegoat always Bitcoin? Why? It's like the ugly kid in the classroom that always gets picked on. Why is Bitcoin that person? It's like, dude, the terrible situation in Ukraine, it's Bitcoin's fault. Like, what the fuck is going on, man? Anyways, Phil, thoughts?
Yeah, they found a great excuse for everything, every incompetence, every ridiculous, stupid idea that they want to throw out into the public. Now, hey, listen, we need to stop Bitcoin. We need to stop the illicit activities. We need to fix the planet, right? And we definitely need to fix sexism by regulating Bitcoin. Now, really what I want to say about this is that if you pay attention, okay, a lot of these businesses, right, especially the banking business, like notice how the average person can't open a bank. Right? Like, I mean, look, if you have millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars, why can't you just open a bank and decide to give out loans to people? You have to go through a lot. And don't get me wrong. Yes, to a certain extent, you can do this with enough regulatory hurdles. But that's exactly what this does, right? Every single time these agencies raise the amount of money that has to be paid in order to enforce these regulations, it continues to raise the moat, the regulatory moat, even higher and higher, making it even more, I guess you'd say, even more of a detached ivory tower, so to speak. And it just creates these entities that are seemingly untouchable. Anyway, that's what I see.
It's the regulatory moat that you're describing, yeah. Phil. Exactly spot on, man. Anyways, Q, thoughts on this?
I mean, look, there are a couple of things here. My initial, as you were explaining it, my first thought went to, oh, this sounds exactly like when the wine companies paid for the study that came out with the results saying a glass of red wine is actually good for your heart health. It's like, okay, cool. Like, you actually gave me just like shitty data based on one subset of a larger scale. But as you like kind of expand it out and really think about this, every single country is a corporation. The government that operates in that country is sort of the board, the executives or whatever, and the citizens are the clients, and our tax dollars are their revenue. So that's all they're doing. They're just figuring out a different revenue stream any way they can. And when you start to realize, like, wait a minute, going back to what we talked about earlier, the people who make the rules, dictate how they're going to go out and follow up and execute these rules are also the ones who benefit from said rules. It's no wonder why in this country, at least, like, you're never going to see term limits, because the people who get to make that decision are the ones who are going to impose that restriction on themselves. That's why you're never going to see a salary for Congress go down, because it's them who decide what their salary is. No different than this example where you have the Bank of England literally making the determination based on the money that they are going to receive as a result of the study that they want to then produce.
Yeah.
Like Nico, to answer your question that was rhetorical, nothing is going to stop them from turning around and say, actually, no, you know what, let's crank this budget up a little bit. You need to give us more money to go and execute this. Meanwhile, what's really going on, it's two guys in the back cubicle playing Minesweeper with each other. Their boss like, yo, you have that report done? No. Need an extension? Cool. Yeah. Another $5 million for us anyways. It doesn't freaking matter.
And a pension. $5 million and a pension. Right. But yeah, no, I think you hit the nail on the head, and the incentives are always going to be misaligned as long as state and money are in cahoots. Like, that's just the reality of it, right? It shouldn't be that the power of the United States is centered around Washington, D.C. That shouldn't be it. It's not a productive city. What do they do? Right? It's just a bunch of bureaucrats, right? And Bitcoin is our only hope to fix this. And I think that a lot of shitcoins give that illusion, but because they're not sufficiently decentralized, they won't be able to survive the onslaught. Now, guys, I picked up on some very, very, very good signal today. We reported on this when it came out, right? So just to give you a recap, right? Exxon, huge oil and gas company, right, is mining Bitcoin in North Dakota. Very big deal, right? And but check this out. This is where I noticed, right? The devil's in the details. ExxonMobil has been working with Denver-based Crusoe Energy Systems to mine Bitcoin in North Dakota. Flared gas Bitcoin mining pioneer Crusoe Energy raises $505 million. And this came out by you guys, by the way, Q, 6 hours ago. What does that mean? That means that their little experiment is paying off.
Uh-oh.
So, yeah, just connect the dots, right? They wouldn't be able to raise $500 million if, you know, their pilot program, right? And for anyone who doesn't know, I have to give a little bit more context. Essentially, some really smart Bitcoiners have figured out how to turn that excess flared gas that usually gets vented out into the atmosphere, that methane, and they turn that into energy, and they turn that into Bitcoin. Why? Because it's very hard to transport electricity over long distances, and it's actually very difficult to transport gas, right? So it's a lot easier to just vent it out. But now Bitcoin has given stranded energy sources all around the world value, which goes back to something that we've been just beating the drum on in this show. Every single oil and gas and energy company is going to end up becoming a Bitcoin miner. It's inevitable. And this news today that the company that ExxonMobil used raised $500 million is more evidence that I suspect that this is where it's going. Watching the game theory of Bitcoin play out is absolutely fascinating, and I think we're all privileged to live through a time like this. Q, what are your thoughts?
There are two scenarios. You described one, which is all of these oil and gas companies owning some sort of Bitcoin mining. But there's a second scenario that I think this $500 million sort of investment into a pure Bitcoin mining company kind of alludes to, which is the Bitcoin miners turn around and go and buy the traditional oil and gas companies. Because there's a certain point. Look at Marathon, for example. How much Bitcoin are they just sitting on? They're mining Bitcoin and they don't sell any of it. I believe the last count I saw was something to the tune of 10,000 Bitcoin. All right, let's say they finish out with 25,000 in total, but we're looking at a Bitcoin price of well above six figures. Well, let me tell you, those $1 billion+ all of a sudden that they're just sitting on their reserves, a lot of their money is going to be spent in that process of getting the 25,000 Bitcoin on energy costs. Well, how do you control the cost of energy? You control the energy. So all of a sudden, it's going to be on these Bitcoin mining companies, more specifically those in the public markets, because they're going to be incentivized. Hey, we need to create sort of an opportunity for our investors. We need to separate from the broader Bitcoin mining companies. You're going to look. I'm going to pull up this clip years from now. Marathon, Riot, potentially even companies like Hut, Core Scientific, they're going to end up owning Exxon, Shell, some parts or facets of these businesses, because then they in turn can control how much they have to pay for the energy they're using to mine Bitcoin. And then all of a sudden it's, wait a minute, now our energy costs went down. We're still mining Bitcoin. Bitcoin mining is still profitable. And it's even more because our margin has expanded. Boom. This has happened before in different industries. You watch tobacco go and eat up all other vice type companies. We've watched
Hollywood, my old industry, get eaten up by the biggest industry at its time during each generation because, hey, we want to control the messaging that goes out. So let's control these companies that send out said messaging. It's the same thing over and over, just in a different industry. The oil, gas, energy industry as a whole has a clock on it right now.
Dude,
and I think
Q, it's very, very. I very rarely find myself in a position where I hear something from a guest that I have not thought of or I have not heard of before, or heard from someone else, and that's the first time someone has ever, pointed that out to me, and it's so freaking obvious, right? So yeah, man, absolutely blew my mind there, right? Did the whole Nico GIF thing from Twitter. Phil, what are your thoughts on this? Is your mind blown just as much as me, bro?
I was just gonna say, as Q was blowing my mind,
his hair was expanding. His hair was getting bigger, and laser eyes started to come out. Like it was like. It's like you don't understand.
With the Matrix,
it's not the oil companies that will mine Bitcoin.
The miners.
It's the miners that will buy the oil companies. Boom.
So as he's saying that, I'm thinking of poor helpless Intel, with their and they're making miners, right? I'm like, okay, like as he's as you're explaining this, Q, I'm like, okay, so what happens to these guys? Because look, let's be honest, right? Sure, there's a lot of money in Bitcoin. There's a lot of money in the miners and everything like that. But these companies, right? Companies like Exxon Mobil and stuff like that, they've got billions of dollars. They've got war chests, Intel war chests. Okay. So nothing is going to, when they see how much money that they can make, right? Like putting the miners aside, right? Letting the oil and gas companies run freely, right? When they start to realize how much profit they can make from mining Bitcoin, their next step is going to be to figure out how they can make it all cost less. So they are quickly going to turn to Intel and whoever else came on board, because I believe AMD is going to join the party and start to offer miners at some point in the near future. When do they go to those companies and say, all right, you need to make these chips a lot cheaper. You need to figure out how to make them all cost less, how to weigh less. There's something that people don't understand about engineering, or most people don't. It's something called value-added engineering, okay? And essentially what happens is that every cycle of hardware that you create, okay, every single time you create a device, you have to the point of the value-added engineering is to make things cheaper and cheaper. Make them cost less and less. Now, don't get me wrong, in a fiat world, it's been working fantastically trying to keep profits afloat, right, for a lot of companies. But when you have these oil companies that are spending millions of dollars on mining equipment, they're going to want a solution. And these companies like Intel, like AMD, I believe, like NVIDIA is eventually going to join. They are going to come to the party. And don't get me wrong, I would be very surprised, but also kind of like, wow, that maybe oil companies start buying out chip manufacturers. Dude, I'm serious. We don't realize the cannibalism that can occur in all these different industries because we've never had Bitcoin. We've never had something like, sure, people use computers in those industries, but they're not using chips in the same way to make them money in the same way. So this changes the dynamics. Anyways,
dude, if I can pour some gas,
absolutely. Pour it on, bro. Pour the gas.
Because you're absolutely right, but I'll take it a little step further. Right now, you have every single miner talking about we're going to get to a hash rate of over 300 by this year based on projections of when they're going to receive new miners and when they're going to roll out. However, and shout out to my boy Sam Rule, who's part of our Bitcoin Magazine Pro team. If you're not subscribed, check it out because their analysis is so spot on some of this stuff. Dude, the supply chain issues exist across the board for food, for cars, for technology. That also includes Bitcoin technology. That includes Bitcoin miners. That specifically includes those hard drive chips that Intel is trying to build out, that NVIDIA builds out. So watch as all of a sudden some of these companies don't get enough miners this year and don't meet their goals and start to get kicked a little bit in the shins on their stock price. Well, what happens? I'll tell you what happens. Intel, this is a small subset of their broader business. They don't give a flying rat's ass if they participate. What they're trying to do, let's build it enough. Hey, we have the designs, we have the models. Like, do you want to just buy this branch of our company from us for 100,
Yep.
$200 million.
Yep.
Boom. And then all of a sudden,
Bro,
watch these Bitcoin miners turn into Amazon.
Blockstream
Control their whole supply
yeah.
chain from start to finish.
100%, dude. Blockstream acquired, Spondoodles, or I still can't pronounce that name, right? Jack Dorsey's getting
Spondoolies.
maybe Jack Dorsey, right? Buys that site, dude. Cute, spot on,
Yeah.
guys. We are running out of time, so I'm not going to be able to cover essentially the developing story. We were actually one of the first to tell what was going to happen yesterday when the U.S. Treasury announced the sanctions against Russian miners. I correctly assumed that this was going to affect Compass Mining. Luckily, before the episode's release, I was able to get a comment from Whit Gibbs, the CEO of Compass Mining. He did release an official statement. I wanted to go over that today and what the implications of it are, but we ran out of time, unfortunately, but we'll get to it tomorrow. But anyways, Phil, there was an open source software release today. Why don't you tell everybody about it?
Software releases brought to you by CypherSafe. Check them out, cyphersafe.io. Guys, I've been harping on the fact that you can burn paper. Not only that, somebody could feasibly wipe their ass with the paper. Be careful, okay? This is why you need to store your seed in steel. You can't wipe your ass with the Cypher wheel, and you can't do it with the Cypher grid. They both come with a tamper-resistant wire, but the grid comes with a punch tool. All right, we've got Spectre Desktop version 1.9.0 that was released. It's down below in the show notes. Guys, don't forget to check us out on our audio-only platforms. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Anchor. If you want to stream us sats, check us out on fountain.fm. You could stream them with Breeze.
Awesome. Thank you, Phil. All right, guys, before we go, I want to give a very special shout out to our awesome clothing sponsor, representltd.com. They just came out with Bitcoin merch too. It just dropped. It's coming in the mail. I'll soon be able to show it off. And I also want to give a very special guest to the legendary Q. You can go give him a follow at Q_like the letter. I can't believe I actually read that. He is the host of Bitcoin Magazine Live. Guys, definitely check it out. If you're subscribed to this channel, you're probably subscribed to that channel. Q, awesome to have you on the show. Guys, if you enjoyed the show, you know what to do. Smash that like button. And of course, if you want to continue hearing the Bitcoin news from the plebe perspective, definitely consider subscribing to Simply Bitcoin. And we'll see you tomorrow, guys, for a brand new episode.
Reduce your exposure to Clown World. Buy Bitcoin and self-custody.